Hi, welcome to Mental Health Monday Check-ins with Jamie Lynn. I am Jamie Lynn. So this week, I need to talk to you about something that's plaguing the youth of our country. Really not just our country, but the world. And it's self-injury in youth. Self-injury often begins in youth around ages 12 to 14. And it's commonly the result of feelings of sadness, distress, anxiety, or confusion. Teenagers use self-injury as a way to cope with all of these negative emotions. Recent studies have found that 1/3 to 1/2 of adolescents in the US have engaged in some sort of non-suicidal self-injury behavior. Think about that. 1/3 to 1/2 of our adolescents in the United States are resorting to self-harm. Now, when you think about suicide, that's even worse. But today I just want to talk to you about self-injury and what that means. And you know, one problem that our youth have that lead to self-injury? Social media. For real. Social media can help. It can help, but it can hurt. Because I use social media as a positive platform to reach out with these Mental Health Monday check-ins so that I can talk to you all about mental health and the importance of it so that you can take care of each other. However, we all know that social media can be used in a negative way as well. Kids bully each other, and they bully each other into suicide and self-harm every single day. Many kids turn to social media like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat as a way to find support and connect with others who are experiencing the same things. However, what happens often is bullying and other kids who think it's funny to encourage self-harm. And it's just a problem that's plaguing our youth. So, and then adding on to, the social media I have some allergies going on. We have the new cat and I'm still trying to acclimate. But even more than just social media, adding to the problem with our youth self-harming is shaming and self-injury. Social media plays a big part of that. It encourages body shaming, fat shaming, slut shaming, all these awful things that put teenagers at higher risk of self-injury. Feelings of shame can cause teenagers to feel heightened levels of distress and anxiety, and many of these teens are resorting to cutting and other forms of self-injury to relieve these feelings, and it's awful, and we have to stop. So what can you do if you have a friend? So if you're, a teen, preteen, young adult, and you know someone who is self-harming, there's some things that you can do. First, ask about it. Don't tiptoe around the elephant in the room because nobody ever gets help by ignoring our problems and acting like they don't happen. So if you notice some of these behaviors in a friend, ask them about it. They might be glad to have you bring it up just so they can talk about it. And if someone's not doing it and they're thinking about starting, if you call attention to this in a friendly, caring manner, it might prevent them from wanting to do it. Offer some options, but don't tell anyone what they should do or what they have to do, but just kind of say, well, these are some ideas. What do you think about these? And because you don't want to take the control away from that person, because that's why they're self-injuring in the first place, is because they feel that they're in control of how they feel and how they react. And so they harm themselves, and that's self-control. So don't take that control from them, but maybe just offer some ideas and some options for your friend to get help. Because we do want to encourage our friends not to self-harm. Seek some support. Knowing that a friend is hurting themselves can really weigh down heavy on you, and it can be frightening and stressful. So consider telling a trusted adult, a teacher, a guidance counselor, a neighbor, your parents, if you have that kind of relationship with them. Talk to an adult so that adult can help your friend get the help that they need. And just know that you're not responsible for ending self-harm and self-abuse. So just because you've noticed this problem or you suspect it in a friend and you report it, know that you are not responsible for making them better. But the best you can do is be there for them in some of those ways I talked about. So if you are thinking about self-harming, know that you're not alone, right? I use that statistic. I can't speak today. And the beginning where I talked about, 1/3 to 1/2 of all adolescents, that's a lot of kids. So you are definitely not alone. Self-injury is pretty common, and it's likely that there are people around you who understand and who can help you. talk to someone. It should really be someone in a professional capacity that can help you. But if you need to start with talking to another adult friend, I know it can be hard to bring this up to a parent. But if you have maybe an older sibling who's an adult, a neighbor, a teacher, a guidance counselor, a clergy person at church, talk to somebody so that you can get the help that you need so that you don't succumb to these behaviors, and know that you can get better. Teenage years, man, they are rough. You couldn't pay me any amount of money to go back to being a preteen or a teen. I mean, I had a pretty decent childhood. Well, I had a great childhood, and I had a pretty decent time in high school, but you're not paying me any amount of money to go back. But know it gets better. Know that it does. Know that these feelings that you have are not going to last forever. The main point I want to emphasize here is talk to somebody. Get some help. And it could even be going to your doctor if you're just not sure. Make an appointment and talk to somebody, because you need to learn some more healthy coping behaviors other than self-harm. And they're out there. I'm not going to go over all these coping because I'm really not qualified to sit and talk to you about all of this stuff in depth. This is really just a check-in, and these are just some tips. Some things that I do want to say, though, that are not to do. So I talked about, some tips for helping a friend, helping yourself, some things that you definitely don't want to do if you know that someone is self-harming, or if you're thinking about it, is don't think of self-injury as failures. It's not. It's just a coping mechanism. It's not a great one, but it's a coping mechanism, and it doesn't mean you're a failure. So getting better is a process, and relapsing and self-injury happens. And when it does, you just identify what can change and how to improve on your chances for the future is really all it is. And responding to someone in a hurtful way that you suspect. So if you're a parent, yelling at your kids, harsh language, lengthy punishments, threats, insults, that's not going to help them at all. That's going to send them backwards and encourage these negative behaviors, these self-injury behaviors. Don't minimize the seriousness of this, though, because this is pretty serious stuff. Self-injury can often lead to suicide because sometimes, as kids don't realize the impact of their behaviors. So they may think a little cut isn't a big deal, but they could nick an important artery, or it could turn into a bigger cut, or it could get infected and they could get really sick. It's a really big deal. So while I don't want to encourage you to yell at them and to, punish them, definitely don't minimize the seriousness of this behavior. Cutting is often used to relieve feelings of stress and reduce negative emotions. So help this teenager, this youth, find better coping skills to help manage their stress and help manage these negative emotions. Don't isolate your kiddo. Oftentimes it's like, well, you've got these friends, and these friends are a negative influence on you, so you're going to stay home, and I'm going to ground you, and I'm going to isolate you. And that could be farther from the truth, because what happens when we isolate and when we don't have people around us is we go into
it with the key.
Okay. Hello, 3-year-old being home for the summer. Anyways, I'm going to wrap up now that Cooper's decided to come on in and join us. So big things here. It's common. It's unfortunate. Seek help. Talk to somebody. That's a big thing. I hope that you're well. We'll see you next week.